Christian parenting.
Welcome to the Christian Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Steph Thurling. I'm the Executive Director of Christian Parenting, a mom of 3, and I am so glad that you're here. This is a place where you can bring your real self, no matter what that looks like today, and be given the space, resources, and encouragement you need to set aside perfection and grow into the perfectly imperfect parent God made you to be. If we want our kids to develop a lasting faith, we need to be teaching them about Jesus in the home. Parents are so important in raising kids to know, love, and follow Jesus, but it is really hard to know where to start. There's a lot of amazing content out there, so Christian Parenting did all of the sorting and filtering for you and put together a resource to help you navigate it all. Discipleship Simplified is a digital guide that includes some of the best articles, podcasts, and videos on topics like faith at home, reading the Bible, theology, prayer, church and worship, and character. You'll also find conversation guides and discussion starters and even scripts to use with your kids. So if you've ever wondered, what do I say when my kid doesn't want to go to church? Discipleship Simplified has a script for that. Or if you want to know how to weave scripture and conversations about faith into your everyday life, Discipleship Simplified has ideas for that too. Since this guide is digital, you can download it straight to your phone or computer and search through resources whenever you need it. I know that this guide will be helpful every time you have a question about discipling your kids. You can go to cpgive.org to download your copy for just $5. That's the best of the best resources from top Christian parenting contributors for just $5. Again, that's cpgive.org. Hey guys, so one thing that I just feel completely ill-equipped to talk about with my kids is the topic of pornography. It's awkward, it's complicated. I worry about oversharing and I also worry about undersharing. I don't know where to start and I know I'm not alone in that. But lucky for me, my friend Greta Eskridge is an expert in this topic and she is joining us today to answer all of our questions. This is actually Greta's second time on the podcast, and I'm so glad to have her back. And this episode was really fun to record because we were able to record in person in my studio while she was visiting family in Minnesota. So today, Greta and I cover all of the difficult but important things about parenting in the age of pornography. We talk about how she became a leading voice in empowering parents to talk to their kids about pornography, why pornography is a problem in homes, but also in the church, how the pornography industry is working hard to make porn accessible to kids, and how we can fight against that. We get super practical, so take notes. She gives us scripts for how we can talk about this topic age by age, from young kids to high schoolers, and then how to talk to our kids if and when they are exposed to pornography. And we also talk about how to help our kids enter the world of technology safely. This is a really important episode that you don't want to miss. Hi, Greta.
Hi.
Welcome to Minnesota and welcome to my home.
In the fall.
In the fall. You guys, Greta happened to be in town visiting family. So I called her and said, come do a podcast, like live with me. Yes. So we get to be together, which is the first time I've done that.
Yeah.
And it's way more fun.
It is. It's
Except
awesome.
for we had to be like, okay, let's record now.
We have to really focus.
Yeah. Okay. So you've already been on my podcast once.
Yes.
So you've done my 2 questions that I already start with.
I actually just thought, oh my gosh, the 2 questions, what are they?
No, I'm going to give you different ones.
Oh, okay.
I usually ask to describe your family in the word or the phrase,
Yes.
and then what's one thing you want every parent to know. I'm going to mix it up.
Ooh, all right.
I'm going to ask you some questions about your family.
Okay.
Okay. So, who in your family of 6 is the funniest?
Oh gosh, me. I'm just kidding.
Might be true.
No. Oh well. Hey, for puns, my husband and my youngest.
Okay.
They love puns, and they're so good at them, and they're terrible, but they're funny. So, but I would say my second son.
Okay.
Second son. He's just the perfect middle child. Super funny.
My middle's really funny.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. Okay. Who's the loudest?
Me.
Okay. Who's the quietest?
My daughter.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. She and I actually just did a little trip together, and I learned that we are so different.
But do you travel well together?
We did travel well.
Okay.
It took a little, we had to do some adjusting.
Okay.
She's definitely the quieter of the two of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Funny. Okay. Who is the biggest adventurer?
Also my second son.
Oh, I thought you were saying also me. I was like,
No, I wish I was. But my husband too. I mean, he cycled from San Francisco all the way down the California coast to Los Angeles, which is like a 5 or 6 day cycling trip if you're cycling hard all day. He's hiked through Spain, done incredible backpacking trips with my 2 older sons. So he's pretty adventurous. He and my 2 older boys, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Who's the most creative?
Again, my husband, my oldest son, and my daughter. Okay. Yeah.
I know you have a lot of artists.
They're
I was
all
like, that's hard.
Incredible artists. Yeah.
Okay. Most tenderhearted.
Youngest, most tenderhearted, maybe person I've ever met in my life, which is so endearing, but also sometimes so hard.
Yes.
Sometimes like, okay, I know that's somebody that like a raccoon on the side of the road, but we don't have to like sob, but he will.
Yeah, I get it. I
get
that. I totally get that.
That's a good question. These are fun.
Who's the most like you?
Second son, middle child.
And who's the most like your husband?
Oldest, and my oldest son and my daughter. The 3 artists.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fun. Okay. Well, we're going to switch gears.
Okay.
Something totally not as fun as that. Because
we can handle it, though.
We can handle it. We can talk about hard things as parents because we have to talk about it with our kids, too. And you really want to empower parents to talk about pornography with their kids.
Yeah.
So how did that become something that you're passionate about?
Mm-hmm. Always this question.
Yeah.
I will tell you that it is something I never would have picked. For a long time, I couldn't even say the word like out loud. It would just be such a cause of embarrassment and discomfort. But having 4 kids, growing up in a time when there is access and exposure to pornography happening accidentally, so often, it was on my radar, and I knew that I needed to talk to our kids, and prep them, and also for myself. Like, I had really no knowledge other than don't look at it, because my parents didn't have to tell me anything, and so I needed to be educated. So I started off being educated myself, and then educating my kids, and then what really pushed me into the arena of talking about it in a public way like I do now was our family attended a camp for a whole week. And the speaker, Josh McDowell, he surprised all the parents that were there for this week of fun family camp. And he talked about the issue of pornography in the church, especially. And he said that he believes it's one of the most troubling issues facing the modern day church and modern day Christians. And he really just sort of forced us all to take a look at it and said, do something about it. And I took it to heart. I had a platform and I was like, how can I do this? And I even talked to him about it. And he's like, talk to moms. They will listen to you in a way they won't be able to listen to me. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay. And I started talking to moms. I started writing about it, speaking about it. And overwhelmingly, mom said, yes, please. Can we talk about this more? We need help.
Why did he say that it's such a problem for the church?
Because it's something that is so prolific in the terms of people using it. So pastors, Sunday school teachers, parents, youth workers, kids, so many people using it. But because there's so much shame attached to it, nobody wants to address it. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to talk about it. And it is such a tool for Satan to take people into really dark and lonely places. And then they can't get out because they can't talk about it to anybody. Yeah. Nobody wants to discuss it because we're uncomfortable. We're embarrassed. We're afraid. We're ashamed.
Yeah. Well, and it's so easy to hide too.
Yes.
Like it's nothing that no one ever really needs to know about.
Yeah.
Unless you get caught on a computer.
Right.
Which happens.
Yes. So he was like, but if we are willing to bring it into the light and say, hey, this is happening, we don't have to be ashamed, because anything that we're facing, any difficulty, any sin, any issue, we bring it to God and he can give us victory and redemption. But if we're hiding, that's exactly what Satan wants us to do. He wants us to stay hidden. He wants us to stay afraid. He wants us to stay in bondage. But Jesus says you don't have to. And so when we have the freedom and the courage to talk about it, good things can come out of that.
Okay, so I know how adults would find pornography. Like, we can very easily seek it out if we want to. But how are kids being exposed to it?
For most kids, it's completely accidental. For example, like they're playing a game on their iPad or a tablet, and a pop-up ad comes up, and you've never said to your kid, hey, if a pop-up ad comes up, don't click on it, because we don't know what's on the other side. And they click on it, and it can lead them into all kinds of images that they shouldn't see. Or they're doing a search for something as simple as, Disney princess, and a few clicks in, and you can click the wrong thing, and it opens up a world of images that no child should ever see. Or someone shows them something on their phone. Yeah. They're on the bus, they're at baseball field, an older sibling or cousin of a friend shows them something. So it's accidental. But I think what parents really need to know is that the pornography industry actually is working to make those images as easily searchable, as easily accessible to kids as possible. And we don't want to hear that, because that just seems like that's so devious.
Right.
But of course they're devious, because they want to get anyone they can to have access to their product, because that's how they make money.
Well, and the younger too, right? Then they get a longer time period of potential addiction.
Exactly.
And exposure, for sure. I feel like when parents think about their kids seeing porn, they think about the bus ride or the sleepover or the friend. But they don't think first of like the pop-ups and the YouTubes and how like slippery of a slope it can be.
Right.
So I want to talk about like how do you talk to your kids to prepare them for those things? Like starting with really little kids. Like, well, first of all, at what age are kids starting to be exposed to porn?
Average first time exposure is 11, but a lot of experts are saying it's now as young as 8, because kids are on devices so much more. I mean, since 2020, the amount of kids doing schoolwork on devices in the classroom, even still, or at home, or kids who have devices, like it's just growing. So their chances of exposure is happening younger and younger.
Okay, so what age should you start talking to your kids about it? Because I know like there's the concern of, I don't want my kids to know, like I don't want to tell them about it.
Right.
But at what age should you be talking to them about it so that they can be prepared for it?
Right. I always suggest to parents around the age of 5 or 6, 5, 6, 7, because that's generally when they're beginning to use devices on their own, right? Even if it's in your home, they still can navigate, right?
Right.
For school or for fun, they're on devices. And so if something were to come up, on the screen, they need to be prepared to know what to do. Just like if you take them to an amusement park, you would tell them, if you get separated from me, here's what you do. Mm-hmm. You give them a plan so that in the moment when it happens, there's a better chance that they won't panic and they'll be like, oh yeah, I know. I need to find a friendly mom and tell her I'm lost. Can I have help?
Yeah.
It's the same for this situation. So they need to know what to do in case they come across something that they shouldn't see. They have a plan of action.
So what would you say to a 5, 6-year-old?
I would say, hey, buddy, there's this thing called pornography. And I would actually use the real word, because for them, it's just a word. Like they don't carry the weight and the baggage that we carry by hearing that word. And I'll explain later another reason why it's important. It's a safety reason. So I would say there's this thing called pornography. It's bad for your body, your brain, and your heart. It's my job to protect you from it. And what it is pictures or movies of people who don't have clothes on. You can see their privates. We know we don't show our privates to anyone. So if you ever see a picture like that or a movie like that on mommy's phone, or somebody else shows it to you, or it comes up when you're playing a game or working on the computer, I want you to close the computer, turn off the tablet, tell the person who showed you, I don't want to look at that. And then come find me or daddy or grandma or grandpa, somebody that you can trust, and tell them what you saw. Say, I think I saw pornography, and we'll talk to you about it and we'll help you. That's all you have to say. It's like 1 minute.
Yeah. Like that's not a lot of detail.
No.
That's not scary.
Most you want to give them the least amount of detail as possible, not the most detail, the least amount of detail as possible, because they need only the minimal details, just enough to keep them safe and help them make the right decision, the right reaction.
Okay, what about when they get older, like the middle years?
So when you get to like middle school, I mean, at that age, there are kids already sending and requesting nudes at that age, which is, again, that's hard to hear.
Yeah.
But isn't it so much better if you had prepared your kid so that if that were to happen to them, they would know what to do? And that is actually a kind of pornography. And it's against the law because it's kids.
Right.
So, I mean, I've had that conversation with my kids when they were middle schoolers, and they didn't even have phones yet. But I wanted them to know that it was happening and it could happen to them, because somebody could say to them, hey, send me a nude. And my kids would be like, well, I don't have a phone.
Yeah.
Here's my email address. But I wanted them to know what to do, because at some point it was going to happen.
Right.
And so I just said, hey, if somebody ever said to you, will you send me a nude? What would you do? And some of them were like, what does that even mean? And others were more savvy and were like, I would say no. And I would tell you. So it's as simple as that. Like, do you know what it means if someone asked you this? What would you do? And some kids are going to be like terrified when you say that to them. They're going to feel so uncomfortable. But even if they're uncomfortable, it's still worth having the conversations. So that would be one of the conversations you'd have with a middle schooler. And if you haven't talked about pornography at all with a middle schooler, I would say exactly the same thing that you would say to little kids. There's a thing called pornography. You may have heard about it at school or from a friend, but we haven't talked about it yet. And I want to make sure you know what our family believes about it. It's bad for your body. It's bad for your brain. It's bad for your heart. I want to help you know what to do if you see it. And then give them the exact same instructions so they have a plan of action.
Do you feel like you should, even if you already, let's say you are like you're nailing it as a parent and you talked about it at 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Repeat like middle school?
For sure.
Repeat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's going to make more sense to them.
Yeah.
It's not going to be so abstract. When they're little, it's for 99% of kids at 5, 6, and 7 years old, it's going to be abstract. We hope, right? And generally it will be. But by middle school, for some kids, it might not be abstract anymore. At least they might have heard about it from someone.
Right.
By high school, for sure you have to talk about it again, because they need to know you still care, you're still involved. They need to know you'll talk to them about it, you'll listen. They might have friends struggling. They might even be struggling. And you're reminding them, hey, I'm on your team. I care about you. If this is something that you're dealing with, I'm still here listening. I want to help you. Over and over, I want to help you. I want to help you.
So what else would you tell a high schooler? Because that gets hard too, because there's a lot more peer pressure. They're a lot more independent.
Yeah.
Their technology is more independent. Like our 11-year-old has a phone.
Yeah.
And we recently, and it stays with me 99% of the time, but it's for when we drop them off.
Totally.
At sports practice.
Yeah.
But we had the conversation of like, you have no right to privacy on your phone right now.
Yeah.
Like whatever people send you, I will read.
Right.
The goal is that by the time you're 18, you have a right to I mean, you will at 18 have a right to privacy. And as you get older, you'll have more and more of a right if you earn it.
Yeah.
But you have to earn it.
Yes.
So as they earn more of a right to that, like, how do you
Right.
continue the conversation without making them feel like, I don't know, like it's just too much?
Right. All I can say is what we've done and what I've read other parents do. And that is to just be like, it's just something that we're really open about. So for example, like we're driving down the street and we see a car that's covered with stickers that are a style of art called anime. And often they're extremely sexualized pictures of women specifically. And I'm like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to have a conversation with my kids about pornography in a really organic, natural way, because we all see that. We're at the stoplight right next to the car. So I'm like, hey, why do you think that guy has all those stickers all over his car? And so I don't even bring up the word pornography. And instead I want to talk about, like, what's this guy's intention? What's his heart? Why do you think he thinks it's okay to portray women like that, objectified? And what do you think like motivates him? And so we have a whole conversation. We've covered like exposing other people to soft porn. We've covered objectifying women. We've covered respecting women. We've covered what would make a person's heart feel like it was okay to do that. And just because we parked next to this guy at the light and I bring it up.
Yeah.
So talking about it often and not being embarrassed as the parent to bring it up. And then also, like, as far as technology, that also being, I love what you're doing, like saying when you start, like, this is a purpose. Here's the purpose for your technology. And here are the things that you need to do to prove you're using it well. Because we all have to use technology.
Totally.
Like, we want to, I think, when our kids are young, to be like, they're never going to have a phone. And it's easy to do that when they're little because they don't need one. But then they get older and we have to let them enter the world of technology. We use it, they will too. So to teach them to use it well. And in our family, having a real open policy of, like, even my husband and I, when our oldest got Instagram, he was 18, and we could have said, like, hey, you can do whatever you want. You're 18 now. But instead, we're like, mom and dad share each other's passwords. I'm like, dad could look at my phone and see anything that I'm doing. I could look at his. That's a great way to establish, like, trust and safety. And we want to invite you into that. So we have your passwords. You can have ours. And our hope is that he'll carry that into his future relationship and his future marriage. And we establish that from the get-go.
As a working mom, 2 of my goals for the new year are to take better care of myself and simplify. And one of the ways I'm doing that is with HelloFresh. There's a reason HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. They make it so simple. All I have to do is pick my meals and my delivery date, and all of the pre-portioned ingredients and step-by-step instructions come right to my door. That means less hassle, less wasted food, and they have health-forward options like over 30 calorie-smart and protein-smart recipes each week. The recipe cards are easy to follow and they're full of pictures, so it makes cooking with my kids really fun too. And we all know that when they are involved in the cooking, they're more likely to eat it, so everyone wins. We have a great deal for you right now because I know that mornings can be crazy as a parent. I often find myself forgetting breakfast or grabbing something really fast. But you can go to hellofresh.com/CPPodcastFree and use the code CPPodcastFree for free breakfast for life. That's 1 breakfast item per box while the subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at hellofresh.com/CPPodcastFree with the code CPPodcastFree. I like that you share your passwords with him too, though.
Yeah.
Because you're saying, like, you're 18, like, this is mutual. We're trying to all keep each other accountable.
Yeah.
Sure, that's good.
All my kids actually know the password to my phone, and they know that what I'm looking at when I'm doing on my phone, they can see. My phone has, like, all kinds of blocks. Sometimes I can't even get onto my own website without putting in a password because it comes up as blocked. But I want them to know, like, I am not hiding anything.
Yeah.
And I want that to be the norm.
Okay, I want to get to the blocking of technology in a little bit, but first, what would we say if we find out that our kid has been exposed to pornography at any age, or like if they're older, if they actually are struggling with it, and you find out, or they come to you, or it just becomes an issue?
Yeah. If they're young and you find out because they came and told you, or you saw something on the history, this would be for any age, I would say. You want to like establish like a physical connection, hug them, hold their hand, touch them immediately. Like just let them know that you are on their team. And say something like, I'm so sorry you saw this. If they're older, you can say, this is not what God intended sex to be. If they're younger, you can say, I know what you saw might have made you feel uncomfortable or scared. I think it's also important to say something along the lines, or it might have made you curious and given you questions, because the reality is when we encounter something sexual, our body responds to that. So they might have a sensation that is like, this felt good, but I am so confused because I don't think I should look at this. And that, again, is, I think, Satan at work, trying to confuse them. And so to address all those things and just say, I want to help you feel better. I love you so much. Let me hold you. Can we pray together? And that is the initial thing. Like, no talk of, how long have you been looking at this? Or I'm taking your phone away, or you've lost all your privileges. Just initially, so much love and care. And then, of course, you're going to have to cover things like trying to determine how long it's been going on, or what the extent of what they've seen. A lot of times when they're young, it's just a one-time thing, and it's something that you can more easily help them get over. If it's something that's been going on for a longer time and they're older, you might need to pursue counseling. You will have to establish new rules and safety precautions for their access. And I think that is a real part of it. And we don't have to, though, frame it in terms of you're punished because you're a bad person. It's my job to protect you. And how can I keep you safe when you're using technology? Because that's my job as your parent. And that'll be hard, especially if they're older, because they're going to push back if they've had a lot of freedom and some of that freedom is reined in. Right. But it's really important because the draw could be strong, and we want to help them not return to it if at all possible.
Yeah. But I like the way that you emphasize the first part.
Yes.
Is like the love and the acceptance of them as a person.
Yeah.
Because that just takes the shame away.
Yeah.
And then it's less like we're on a team. You're not in trouble.
Yes.
Like, we're on a team and I'm going to help you out, which is good.
Yeah. And I think, too, as a parent, your initial reaction might be that you're mad or sad or afraid. Mm-hmm. All of those are totally normal reactions, and you shouldn't feel bad at yourself for feeling that. Right. But if you can ask the Holy Spirit to step in those moments and be like, first, I'm just going to respond with compassion and grace and love to my child who is hurting. That goes such a long way in healing. And the Lord can heal you too. But in that moment, if you can hold those feelings in to give to him later or in that moment, but not put them on your kid, the compassion piece and love is so powerful for your child when they're hurting, because they're hurting.
And isn't that true for all of parenting?
Yes.
Right? I mean, there's so many times that even I know I need to step back and then come at this problem. And I still, sometimes I do that really well. And other times I don't. And I act out in a lot of anger. And I'm like, why did you do this? And then I have to step back and apologize. So I didn't handle that well. And I'm really sorry. And this is what I was feeling, Yes. So that's a good practice for all of parenting.
Yeah.
Even though it's really hard.
Yes.
Especially when it's something scary that makes you as a parent feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the monitoring of the technology, because this is something that I find to be really difficult, because it's there's a lot of options out there, and I'm not I'm like, I can do a podcast. Like, I'm
Right.
okay at technology.
I'm okay at this much technology.
I can do like some things, but this is not what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And so I look at all the options. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. So like, how do you, because truly when you give a kid a phone, you are giving them the entire world of information and just like access to everybody they know. The amount of text messages that come in are just ridiculous. Yeah. So what can we do to monitor not just phones, but I guess computers, like all the things?
Well, I would say, so for example, when you start with, and I'm going to use Apple products because that's what I'm familiar with, but if your kid gets an iPhone or an iPad, for example, those come set with the like no parental controls. They could set them for like they're already set in place and you could change and remove them, but instead they don't have them on. So your first line of defense is just to simply go into the settings and turn on those parental controls. And you can Google it and it'll show you step by step what to do.
And I did do that. I did too.
And that's a great first step. Like that is such a powerful first place to begin. And then you can talk about adding extra things in. And there are like some that are, they do different things. Like, for example, there's a company called Bark that provides great monitoring to see what keywords and things that are being said or texted, and they'll notify you. Or you have something that's like one of the highest levels of monitoring out there for pornographic images, Covenant Eyes. And that is going to block a lot of stuff. But also if a person is using their technology to look for pornographic images, then it'll send a message to whoever they've identified as, or you've identified as like partners in it. Okay. So like there's a gamut of stuff out there. And I always refer people to my friend Chris McKenna, who runs an organization called Protect Young Eyes. And he is just phenomenal at covering all the technology stuff because it's not my gifting either.
Yeah.
And you can go on his website and find so much help for which sort of software is best for your needs.
Yeah. We just put Bark on our phones and it does do a really good job alerting. It's funny though, because it'll alert like medical or bullying and nothing has been concerning so far. So it's very sensitive. Yeah. It'll be like, it'll tell me, it'll be like medical alert. And it's like, I twisted my ankle in gym class today. So, but it picks it up, which I appreciate because I'm like, I really don't need to know about this, but I appreciate that it does that because I know it's working and it's actually paying attention to anything.
Yeah. So I always tell parents that, because everybody always wants to know, like, what do we put on the phone? How do we protect their devices, the iPad, the computer? And I definitely believe we should use all those things, but it should never be like that's all we do and we don't have the conversation because kids can find their way around anything. And also like the industry is going to find its way around anything to try to get to our kids and even to us. I mean, I have had things pop up my phone. I have no idea how it got there. I'm like, what in the world? I'll turn my phone over like, what is this? I don't know how it got here. So we have to have the open lines of communication because if the things we put in place fail, then we need to be able to talk about it. Right. Our kids need to know they can come to us. They need to know what to do. We need to know that we're not afraid to cover anything, no matter how difficult.
Yeah. Okay. So what encouragement do you have for the parent who's listening and is like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have that conversation. I hear you. It's important. I don't want to do it.
I would say that there are a lot of parts of parenting that we feel that way, that we don't want to have those conversations. You know, I remember the first time I had to talk to my kids about somebody who might try to hurt them. And that was one of the worst feelings of my life because they're little perfect people who live in this little perfect world. How could I have that conversation with them? But the thought of me not addressing it and allowing them to potentially be hurt because I hadn't equipped them as best as possible, that outcome was worse than having that first talk with them. And so I think the conversation about pornography is the same. Like, if we don't say anything to our kids, we're basically just leaving them to figure it out on their own or with the help of Google or some, friends at school. And we're not giving them our best. And they deserve our best. They deserve to be as best equipped to step into this new world that isn't the world we grew up in, but it's the world they're growing up in. And so we have to step up and say, I want to help you be prepared because I love you that much. I'm willing to do something that feels scary and hard, but I love you so much that I'll do it.
It's a good word. Again, for many things in parenting, just not just pornography. Because there are so many hard conversations that we have to have. Even talking to our kids about sex.
Yes.
Not really fun. It's not my favorite.
Yeah.
But we have to do it.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for talking about this. Yeah. Thank you for being passionate about it, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's not what you wanted to do. Thank you for being the voice for so many moms, because we do need it. We need somebody to help us through this. So thank you. Where can people connect with you, and what resources do you have? Give us all of the stuff.
Okay. I've got all kinds of stuff out there to help parents because I want to equip you for this challenging world. So you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Ma and Pa Modern, or you can just look up Greta Eskridge. That's where I'm the most active, spend the most time. I have so many posts and links to books that I recommend, podcasts like this one, articles to read. So there's just tons there. And if you DM me, I will DM you back. I also have my website, gretaeskridge.com, where I have longer articles that I've written about all kinds of topics from, video games to how to have that first conversation, so many more, how to talk to your kids about objectification, things that you're like, I don't know the terminology. I've got a blog post about it, I guarantee you. And so those are the two best places to find me, Instagram and my website.
Perfect. Yeah. I'll put those in show notes.
Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Always a pleasure, and I'm glad we got to do this in person.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yay, Minnesota.
Thank you so much for listening to the Christian Parenting Podcast. If you haven't subscribed, you can do that now, and that way you won't miss an episode. You can connect with us on Instagram at ChristianParenting_org and see more resources at ChristianParenting.org. And if you're a mom raising daughters, we have the perfect course for you. Visit cpguides.org to learn more about our Helping Moms Raise Confident Daughters online courses. And lastly, if you have enjoyed this podcast or other Christian parenting resources, please consider donating to this ministry. Visit christianparenting.org and click the donate button. Christian Parenting is 100% donor funded, and none of this would be possible without your help. We are so grateful for you. You're amazing. God bless you.